Thank you all six for being here. We are calling City Council into session. It is March the 21st of 2023. It is 11:30 in the morning. And at this time, City Council will hold an executive session today for the purpose of consulting with city staff regarding personnel matters under Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. We will be in recess for executive session, and we will come back in and likely break for lunch, and promptly start back at 1:30 for a work session, and then our regular agenda will begin at 2 p.m. This time we are in recess to executive session.
Transition from one tariff to the next. So what we're going to focus on today is going to be just that new tariff. We're just going to be focusing on that part of it. When we talk about a tariff, there are a number of things, there are a couple things that are under the PUC jurisdiction when we go for our new delivery rates, and that's going to be when we talk about issues of the definitions of the terms, our conditions of service on how we behave as a transition delivery customer, and then also as we invite reps into our territory, what are their protections and customer protections for them, as well as how we interact with the market. So that's all determined by the PUC, and that's under their jurisdiction. And obviously what's under your jurisdiction are the rates themselves and the tariff itself, and as far as that goes. So that's going to be what we refer to as Chapter 5. That comes with all of our service rules and customer protections. And then obviously it's going to talk about our distribution rates, distribution delivery rates that Joe's going to present to you, as well as our discretionary rates. And the reason why we have the difference between those two, delivery rates are rates that are applicable to all customer classes. Everybody gets to share that cost. If we talk about discretionary rates, those are rates specific to an individual customer who actually drives that cost. So for example, if I'm a builder and I need you to build a temp post to a residence because I'm building construction, I'm driving that charge, you shouldn't pay for it, so that's a discretionary charge. So that's the difference between a general delivery tariff and then what we would say a discretionary charge. Two things I want you to note just to set up Joe is when he comes up here to present, and one's going to be we have transition charges that we are going to experience as we make that move from where we are in the current market into the next market. And what we mean by those transition charges are really two things. We're going to have the debt service from our SPS partial requirement settlement. So the debt service associated with that's going to be occurring later this month, this year and this summer. That cost that cost will have about a 17, that and as well as an existing purchase power agreement that we're working on right now with a wind project. That's about a $17 million a year burden that carries with us. When we compare that to the other investor-owned utilities that we're going to look at, they don't have that burden. They've been in this since 2002. Any transition costs that they have are largely all gone. So we do have a little bit of a burden that we need to carry as a utility that others don't. The second burden that we carry is the hold harmless payment. So when we entered into, we had a $110 million agreement to go into ERCOT. It was $110 million spread over 5 years, or $22 million a year. That's an additional burden that we carry that will be lifted in January of 2027, and that counts to, again, $22 million a year of debt burden. And so the question is going to be, how big of a burden on your rates is that? So if you're talking about $22 million a year, that's about a 15% burden on your rates compared to anybody else that will drop off, or to the board's decision, however you want to manage that $22 million debt relief. The other part is the $17 million in transition charge, so that's an additional 10% burden that you carry. That eventually these temporary things go away, and when we do, we'll swing right back to the middle of the market. We're still within the market. We're probably on the upper end that Joe will show you, but those debt burdens will come off. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Joe, and Joe will take you through the details of the rates.
All right, Joe, I made sure that I had Ms. Patterson-Harris in here before you began.
Hey, Ms. Patterson. There you go. Can y'all see it on your screens, or y'all not seeing anything on the screens? I apologize for that. I guess I can get started on my slide, but first of all, appreciate Harvey for kicking this off. I just wanted to kind of step back before we get into the delivery rates and kind of let y'all know how we operate right now as a utility. You know, we're a vertically integrated company, which means we provide energy, we have distribution, transmission, and we procure energy for our customers. And going forward into the transition market, we're going to get out of that purchase power business, which means that 2/3 of the customer's bill will now be handled by the rep, which is getting energy in the ERCOT market and bringing it back to the customer. And what we're actually going to be is a poles and wires company. So we're going to maintain the infrastructure of the distribution and transmission system. So, and I really, what's that? Sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. Okay. And what I really wanted was on the next slide to be able to show y'all. So what we really, the major change from our current tariff to the new tariff is our purchase power cost. So again, that's 2/3 of your bill, so that will be handled by the rep. So what we did is we made sure that we had a chart that showed every current rate class that we have versus what's going to be on the new tariff. So we accounted for every rate class in the new class. So we kind of divvied that up into large commercial, small commercial, your residential customer, and your large transmission customers. So we made this chart to make sure that every rate class was accounted for. The major change on the current tariff to the new one, or the rate structure, is your general religious services. So general religious services currently are in charge of the demand component, but there's a lot of large churches in the city of Lubbock, so about 1/3 of the churches are actually in the large commercial customer class now. So that's the major charge. So they will be charged a demand component. So that's the major change on those rate tariffs from our current tariff to what's going to the retail market tariff. So on the we had a slide that kind of gave you a benchmark of where our delivery rates at were compared to the market. So we compared ourselves to Encore, AEP, Texas New Mexico Power, and so on. So and I guess I can explain this. So we came in at about 5.7 cents. So we came in right between AEP Central and Texas New Mexico Power, which Texas New Mexico Power came in at about 6.2 cents, and AEP Central came in about 5.8 cents. So we're right in the middle of those two. And again, as Harvey mentioned, you know, the biggest hurdle for us is the transition costs that we carry, you know. So some of these utilities have been, or these IOUs have been in the market since 2002. So they don't no longer have distribution costs, but they did when they first got in there. We're just new to the market. So these are costs, it's pretty much the cost of doing business, of transitioning to ERCOT. And of course, you know, we beefed up our system, our distribution. And as Harvey mentioned, we had the settlement payment and the whole harmless payment. So that's still a stranded cost to us that we have to pay on that debt service. So that used to be a lot of those, and then Elk City Wind Farm, that was in the purchase power, so now it's in your base rate. So that's the reason that we've increased the base rates on that. So again, our residential customer comes in about a total of about 5.7 cents. Another thing I wanted to mention was that we have a franchise fee equivalent still. You know, we were transferring 5% to the city at 1% on the pilot. So what we did is we took an average of the prior 3 years, which was about $14.5 to $15 million, and we told the city of Lubbock that we were still going to make that transfer, but we're collecting it instead of revenue-based, we're collecting it through a load distribution per kWh consumption. So it's a less of a volatile revenue stream because your load doesn't transition like your costs and expenses do. Your costs and expenses are driven on natural gas, and this is driven on load driven. So we told the city we give them approximately equivalent of $14.5 to $15 million. So that's another component that the other IOUs don't pay or don't transfer to the city. Their franchise fee is probably closer to 3%, and we're paying an equivalent of 6% to make the city whole on that. So that's one of the reasons that our base rates are a little higher than the other IOUs as well. And our commercial came in less than 10 kW, came in a lot lower. It's about 5.52 cents. And so we're right in the middle of the pack on that rate, on that class rate right there. And next is our commercial greater than 10 kW. This, again, this is your cost of service model and your rate delivery structure is based on load factor. So your commercial is really load heavy, so you have to get the rates for them and set them to a point where you will collect the revenue. And so I think I forgot to mention this, but our total revenue requirement is $146 million. That's the revenue requirement for our O&M or operations. And I want to make a point on that no matter what, if we were in the old existing tariff or the new current tariff structure, it was still going to be $146 million. So there was no increase in our revenue requirement, whether it was just a different mechanism that we're collecting that $146 million. So I think that's important for everybody to know and our customers to know that our revenue, our base rate didn't increase. It's $146 million. We're just collecting it through a different mechanism now versus the old base rate and energy charge that we had. I did have a bill comparison for our residential customer, and it kind of breaks down every rate that they have. So these IOUs have different rates than we have. We have a franchise fee, a delivery fee, a transition charge, and a customer and meter charge. But ultimately, the customer is worried about their bottom bill. So what I did is I did a comparison of what a residential customer would pay for 1,000 kWh, and with our current structure, our current rate, it would be $64.42 for their delivery part of it, not the energy part, just the delivery part. And so we come in at $64.42, and if you take AEP Central, they come in at $62.46. So we're about $1.94 higher than AEP Central, which is not bad. Including that we have the transition costs and our stranded costs. So I think that's pretty comparable to what they're out in the market. And so we try to get a rate that we could kind of slide in. And again, as Harvey mentioned, we have the whole harmless payment, which is $22 million, our T-cost whole harmless payment, which is $22 million. So, if that falls off in February or January 27, so that's another $22 million. Instead of collecting the $146, you only need to collect $124 million, which can really drop your rate. So that's a decision to be made in the future. So that's one thing we want to let our customers know, that this delivery rate can and will shift out in the future, and we'll adjust it accordingly as we see. And last was a list of our discretionary fees. And what we wanted to mention on the discretionary fees is mostly that we didn't include any new fees going into the market. These fees that we have established are the current miscellaneous fees we have. For example, meter connect, meter disconnect, and special circumstances like priority reconnect. Meter testing, we're going to give the customer one free meter test a year at no cost. But if we have to go out there again for a meter test, and if it is our fault, if it's a faulty meter, then there will be no charge. But if it's going to be a monthly reoccurring thing, then it will be a $30 fee for us to go out there and test that meter. Other than that, like I said, these discretionary fees are the same as we have in our miscellaneous fees. So we wanted to enter the market and just go with what we know. And then as we get more experience in the retail market, then we'll start adding additional discretionary fees as other IOUs have. Again, so we presented this to the Electric Utility Board yesterday and then to City Council today. And it's just a presentation, no action is needed. We will take our final rates to the board on April 10th for their approval and recommendation to the City Council, which will come back on April 11th to the City Council for the final rate approval. And again, I apologize for not being able to see the slides on there. And it's kind of hard to compare the metrics when we had them up there, but yes, we definitely will send that out. I'll send that out as soon as I get back to the office. Any questions?
Ms. Joy.
Questions or wanting explanations. When our citizens are being told that when we move into ERCOT, then their electricity will be provided by someone else. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I hear you saying today is, what are the expenses and fees that are going to be in that distribution cost? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, ma'am. So as we transition to the retail market, LP&L only controls the delivery portion of the bill, not the energy portion of the bill, which is approximately 2/3 of a customer bill. That's the actual energy that's delivered to their house, which is pretty much natural gas driven pricing.
But LP&L won't be doing that.
No, that
will not be doing that billing. And when you say the customer's bill, they're all going, we won't be billing. And if we're just a poles and wires company, but we still have the responsibility to take care of the equipment, and what I heard you say was the meters. Is that right?
Yes, the meters, because the meters are still ours. LPNL will still own the meters.
Okay, and so what we've done in the past, where we'd go out and check somebody's meter, probably not charge for it. They may actually, if they have a problem with their meter and it's not a problem and we send somebody up there, they're going to get a bill? That's what I'm trying to figure out. How are we going to bill
Yeah,
these people?
so this is how it will work, Ms. Joyce. So the rep will handle all the billing. They'll call the rep and say, I'm having an issue with our meter. The rep will then relay that message to our LPNL group, and the LPNL group will get, that's a discretionary fee. So there's a certain code tied to that meter read fee. And so what they'll do is a rep will say, okay, we've had a request for them to get a meter read. And so the rep will then let LPNL know that they want to get their meter tested. So we'll actually go investigate the meter. If it's, like I said, if it's a one time within a 12-month period, that will be covered for. That will be on LPNL's charge. But if it's twice within a given year and it's not a faulty meter, then we will say, yes, that was a meter read that belongs to the customer. And so that will show up on the energy, or that will show up on the customer's bill through the rep. And through the rep, yes, ma'am. So same thing with the delivery fee. That delivery fee will be on the rep's bill. Will be a line item on the rep's bill. So the rep will send out the whole bill, collect it from the customer, and then distribute to our portion for the delivery charge or whatever discretionary fees back to LPNL.
So what other discretionary fees might there be?
We have, I think Mr. Hall passed out a slide on that. So,
Okay.
yes. And so again, these are not any new fees that we've established. These are the fees that are in our current tariff, and they're listed in the very back of our tariff as miscellaneous charges. Now we're just calling them discretionary charges. But all these fees that are listed here, other than the dual billing fee, is current in our tariff. And that dual billing fee, what that is if the customer decides that they don't want our delivery charge to be on the rep's bill, and they want to come in directly from LPNL, which it could be done, but it takes a lot of man work and a different system to create that bill. So the idea was that the customer will have to pay a $95 fee if they want two separate bills. So in that instance, they would be getting the delivery bill from us, and then the energy portion from the rep. So that's the option of dual billing.
Mr. McBrayer?
Basically, they're collecting the rate for us and passing it on to us. We give them the rates, and the rates we're giving them, that 6442 distribution, that covers the hold harmless and $17 million a year, and or that was $22 million a year, and the settlement debt and all that.
Yes, sir. That is the all-in. That's the all-in delivery fee. So that 64 that we're collecting, it covers all our O&M, all the debt service, all the stranded costs, all the costs that it takes for LPNL to operate as a utility.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Joel, are you up?
I'll just try to finish this up because I know we got a whole schedule ahead of us. This is under the purview of the city council, and that's why we're here talking with you all. You all have the obligation to vote for and set our rates. And so that's why we're doing this workshop in this manner. We will be back for a final vote, hopefully April 11th. I say hopefully. We're looking for feedback from the market participants. The IOUs and the REPs that are in the market right now. We've got these rates posted on our website for them to go take a look at and see. They're used to taking these things before the Public Utilities Commission, and we don't have that process. Thankfully, we don't have to do that. However, it would be worthy for us to allow them to give us some of their feedback on things that they see that they like and don't like or whatnot. So there could be some changes to this. I doubt it, to be honest with you. This is our first cut to try to get rates to get us into the market. And now that we've got automated metering infrastructure, we're going to be able to dial this down with a lot more precision over the next couple of years. So you'll probably see some moderation of these rates as we go through space and time. But for now, this is going to get us into the market and get the party started, so to speak. Okay. Thank you all. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but
Hold on one moment, Joel.
okay.
Just a moment.
Yeah. On the franchise fee, keeping in mind that LP&L still owns the poles that sit in the right-of-ways and sometimes on city property, wherever. So when you were talking about the franchise fee, Joe said something about, well, the others don't pay it. That's the reason they don't, is they don't have the poles. These are our poles.
The cities generally, I think we were talking about two different things, perhaps. Cities generally have the right to charge franchise fees to utilities that operate inside the
Right.
incorporated city limits. We charge 5%. The city charges us 5%. I assume that you would charge anybody else the same 5%.
Right.
Right.
Joe's statement was that the other providers wouldn't have that franchise fee, but that's because we own the poles.
Well, yeah, definitely,
And we're the ones that are using
definitely, yeah.
the property. I guess I'm concerned on the discretionary fees that we have to communicate to our customers that these may occur. That if, for example, on a reconnect at meter and regular hours, are we sending our people out there to do that?
Yes. Yes, and for the record, these are exactly the same as the fees that we have right now today.
Okay, but
Nothing's
we're still
changed.
going to have people who have to go out and do all of these things.
Potentially, I mean, we get calls for no power at people's houses, and we tell them, check your breaker. And maybe they do, maybe they don't, maybe they don't even know how to do that. And so there's fees that are associated with that. If we show up and it's just a breaker, we've got to cover the basis for that. So there's things like that we're going to be doing on the after-hours times.
And it will show up on their provider's bill.
Yeah, the REP, we'll bill the REP. The REP will consolidate it in with the bill, send it out to the customer, and then they'll pay us. The REP will pay us.
Okay, on the dual billing, I understand they're going to get a bill from their provider, but if they want a separate bill, they can come to.
So the law is the customer has the right to request dual billing, a bill from us and a bill from the REP. If they're going to request a bill from us, that is extremely non-standard, and there's going to be a charge for that. And unfortunately, it's going to be pretty high because it's a manual process. Our computers aren't set up to do that kind of thing right now. So we want to try to discourage it as much as we can and should, because nobody does it. Nobody in the market is doing that at all. And so just because the law is written that way, we would have to actually provide it, but we're trying to get the law changed as we speak. And we think we'll prevail in that.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you all.
Council, let's take about a 5-minute break after our work session. We'll move back in here in about 5 minutes. It is 2:05 on March 21st of 2023. We just finished up a few minutes ago our work session, and now we are convening for our open session and our regular agenda. We will first begin with ceremonial items, and that is today we are honored to have Pastor Joseph Casper with the Shepherd of the Plains Lutheran Church. If you would all stand as Pastor comes forward, he will pray, and then we will be led by the pledges by Mayor Pro Tem Patterson Harris. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. Let us pray. Dear Lord God, you are the one who puts people in charge of us to consider what we need and what we want. We pray that in this session you would allow us to honor you both with our words and our work, and that the decisions that are made here would be good not only in your sight, but also for those who live in our community. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Would you join us as we pledge to the United States and the Texas flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated.
All right, thank you again, Pastor Casper, for that. All right, this time we have citizen comments. We've received a notice that there are no citizens signed up today for citizen comments. So we will next move to agenda item 5, which is the minutes. 5.1 is February 21st of 2023 special city council meeting. February 22, 2023 special city council meeting. February 28th special city council meeting, and February 28th our regular city council meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Ms. Martinez Garcia. Second by Ms. Joy. All in favor of approval of 5.1, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? All right, 5.1 carries 7-0. We'll next move to the consent agenda. This consists of agenda items 6.1 through 6.24. We have 610, 611, and 612. Resolutions to be pulled regarding public health services. Mr. Howerton, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got Ms. Catherine Wells, our Public Health Director, is here today to go over all 3 of these items for us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. Stage is yours.
Yes. We have 3 different public health items that were pulled this afternoon. The first one is 610 and 611, and if I can discuss those together because they're very similar. 610 and 611 are contract amendments with Texas Health and Human Services. The City of Lubbock Health Department is a subcontractor to Health and Human Services, and we have developed a hub and spoke model to help people access substance use treatment within our community. So Texas Health and Human Services contracts with the City of Lubbock, and then we subcontract out that funding to basically purchase beds among substance use treatment providers throughout the Lubbock community and even up into Amarillo. These amendments are going to add additional dollars for the next fiscal year to continue treating individuals with substance use disorder. The state also is trying to increase the reimbursement amount to those providers because the providers are actually dependent on other donations to remain whole to provide these services. So there will be some bonus payments that will go to our treatment providers based on a calculation from the state, and they can use that for staff bonuses, improvements of their facilities, or any other expenses that they had for the last year. Do you want me to move on to the second?
Yes, you want to go ahead and on to 6.12?
Agenda item 6.12 or 12 is a contract with the Department of State Health Services. This is for electronic health information for syndromic surveillance. So syndromic surveillance looks at individuals' chief health complaint when going into the ER or some of our regular doctor's offices. And it's a good way for us to be able to tell if we're seeing an increase in flu or some other disease that might be hitting our community. We don't get individual names on this. We're seeing the trends. So we're able to compare what those chief complaints are, what we were seeing last year to this year to see if there's a difference. And then if there is a difference, we can do some additional public health work to follow up and identify what really is going on.
Ms. Martinez Garcia.
With that information you'll be receiving, does that also allow for a demographic breakdown?
I would have to double check on that. I don't know if it's just chief complaint or if we also see zip codes, race, ethnicity. I don't know the detailed data file that we receive from the state, but I can get back to you.
Thank you, Catherine. Ms. Joy?
Yes, Ms. Wells, on 612, when I saw the syndromic surveillance, my antenna went up, as I'm sure other people's antenna, if they were looking at this, would, and wanted you to be able to explain that we're not surveilling, that we're just trying to track data so that you, as a health department, can see if what there is an increase in terms of a new whatever or an old whatever. And it is not identifiable by the person, it's strictly data.
Correct.
that
It's
correct?
just looking at that chief complaint, and we don't receive the individual's names or that identifying information.
Okay. And on 610 and 611, when it's budget time at the legislature, the city health department, you do not get direct budget allocations from HHSC, do you?
These are grant funding that is a mix of federal dollars and state dollars that go to HHSC, and then they are given to probably 30 different organizations across the state of Texas to provide these services. We're the only one that operates this hub and spoke model. The other money goes directly into, say, a nonprofit. Because we've had a hard time keeping the nonprofits going in this area of the state, this hub and spoke model has been great because it's not putting all your eggs in one basket. Money is separated, and different nonprofits and different entities are able to take on a couple of these beds for people that are uninsured. And so the risk is spread among multiple agencies instead of just one. And if an agency were to shut down, we could find another agency to operate with, and we wouldn't be without any treatment in this community, which is what happened back in 2019.
But what you're actually doing is you're providing services that, for example, let's say Star Care gets money from the legislature to do. Is that correct?
Correct. They also receive money for substance use disorder and treatment.
Okay. And in your substance abuse treatments, do you follow up with with the people who are participating in the programs to make sure they're doing okay?
Yes, we have a group of community health workers that are dedicated to serving individuals with substance use disorder. There's no eligibility requirements to work with these community health workers. They'll help anybody in our community that needs assistance. If they have insurance, we'll work with them on getting them into a treatment place where their insurance is accepted. We will follow them during their time in treatment and help them with that critical transition period from leaving treatment, where you don't have access to, any drugs, you don't have those friends and other people around you that could encourage that drug use again. They help transition them into sober living. They help take them and get them into AA meetings, and they follow them as long as they want to be followed to provide that support. We really want to wrap around, and if we've made this investment to put somebody through treatment, we want to make it possible for them to remain sober when they move back into our community, so that they can return to work, they can return to their family, they can get their kids back from CPS. The whole goal is to keep that family united, people working, and that's that support with those community health workers.
So if anyone needs assistance in these areas, they can contact the city and county health department, right?
Yes.
And you all can get them to where
Yeah, they
need
should
to
ask
be.
for the Susan program, and that is the first step to getting help. And it doesn't have to be the person themselves that needs help. We can talk to parents, teachers, coaches, if they want to learn or figure out how to help somebody that they're concerned about.
Well, I want to commend the city and county health department for doing what you're doing, because you are making a difference, and you're doing it without a whole lot of money. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It's great work.
Dr. Wilson?
As well as for being here. Just couple of quick questions on 6.12, just out of curiosity. What type of chief complaints are y'all following under the surveillance program? Just any, or are there certain ones that they look for?
It is looking at people that are coming in with, it's really looking at more of our flu-like symptoms,
Okay.
cough, congestion. It is also starting to pick up on overdoses, suicide ideation. So we'll really start to be able to see some of those other trends in the future.
And just out of curiosity, are these patient chief complaints or these physician diagnoses?
No, it's
They're usually very different.
No, it's the patient chief complaint coming in to whatever facility. There is other data sets that allow us to see detailed information on the diagnosis and look at those trends. And that's a separate system, and this is the MOU renewing for that chief complaint information.
Thank you.
Ms. Patterson-Harris, did you have a? All right, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. All right, if there's no objection from council, I would ask that we take the consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.24 all into one motion. I would ask if there's a motion to approve 6.1 through 6.24. Thank you, Mr. Massengale. Thank you, Ms. Martinez-Garcia. All in favor of approval of agenda items 6.1 through 6.24, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? All right, motion carries 7-0. We will now move to our regular agenda, which is 7.1 through 7.77. Council, in looking at these, we'll specifically take 7.1 separate and then 7.2 separate because I believe those had negative votes on E and Z. And then I guess we can look at if we want to open up the hearings on 7.3 through 7.7. But we'll go ahead and start off with 7.1. These are public hearings just for the purposes of those here to speak. Ms. Sager will give us some information on 7.1, and then we will open up the public hearing. We'll have an opportunity to step forward and speak in opposition, and then an opportunity to step forward and speak in favor of. And we will close the public hearing. And we will do that for items 7.1 through 7.7. Ms. Sager?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Item 7.1 is Zone Case 3478. The applicant is the Carpenter's Hand LLC for DJ Holding LLC. The request is to rezone a property from two-family District R2 to Family Apartment District A1. We sent out 33 notifications, received 0 in favor, 3 in opposition. The 3 in opposition did not provide any comment regarding their opposition. This property is located south of 19th Street, west of Avenue U. Here's the response map showing the 3 properties that did respond in opposition. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. It is surrounded by other single-family homes with a vacant lot to the north. The entire area is zoned two-family District R2. The future land use plan designates this property for low-density residential land uses. Here's some photos of the subject property and surrounding area. Here are graphics provided by the applicant showing the existing layout of the structure on the property today. It is a duplex with a registered apartment, so all 3 units today are legal. They want to change the interior of the structure, not expand the footprint, but change the interior so they have 4 separate units, which would constitute an apartment. And some additional graphics showing the layout. The future land use map designates this area for residential low density, so the zone change to A1 would not be consistent. This zone change is not in conformance with the zoning ordinance and is not appropriate in the neighborhood zoned R2. It is not compatible with the surrounding area. The location is near Avenue U, which is designated as a collector, and along 21st Street, which is designated as a local street. Staff recommended denial of this request. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial by a vote of 1 to 5. Therefore, a supermajority vote of 6 out of 7 council members is required for the request to be approved. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sager.
Thanks.
right, this time on agenda item 7.1, I will open the public hearing. If anyone is here is wishing to speak in opposition to agenda item 7.1, you may step forward now. All right, seeing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of agenda item 7.1? All right, I will close the public hearing as to agenda item 7.1 and entertain a motion to approve agenda item 7.1. Thank you, Ms. Joy. Thank you, Mr. Massengill. All right, any discussion on agenda item 7.1? Does anyone have any questions of Ms. Sager on agenda item 7.1? All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval of agenda item 7.1, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. Nay. All right, motion fails 0 to 7, or fails 7 to 0. All right, got that, Courtney? All right, we'll move to 7.2. Ms. Sager.
Thank you. Item 7.2 is zone case 1511L. The request is to rezone a property from restricted local retail district C2A to local retail district C2. We sent out 27 notifications. We did not receive any in favor or in opposition. This property is located north of 50th, west of Quaker. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. There are other commercial uses up and down 50th Street and a residential neighborhood to the north. Current zoning is restricted local retail district C2A. There is additional C3, C2, R3, R1, and one property zoned C4 within this area. Future land use plan designates this property for commercial land uses. Here's some photos of the subject property and surrounding area. There is an existing multi-tenant structure on the property. The future land use map designates the property for commercial land uses, which the C2 zoning is consistent with. The requested zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and appropriate in this location. It's compatible with the surrounding area and located on 50th Street, which is a principal arterial. Staff recommended approval of the request. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial by a vote of 1 to 5, and therefore a supermajority vote of 6 out of 7 votes is required for the request to be approved. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Ms. Sager, what was the primary, or do you recall, was the primary reason why there was a negative vote at P&Z?
The applicant was not present at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, and the intended use that had been told to staff by the applicant was for a smoke and vape shop.
Any other questions of Ms. Sager at this time? All right, thank you, Ms. Sager. All right, this time we will open the public hearing as to agenda item 7.2. If there is anyone here wishing to speak in opposition of agenda item 7.2, that'd be opposition, you may step forward now. Okay. If there is anyone here wishing to speak in favor of 7.2, you may step forward now. And if, as you do step forward, if you'll just state your name and your address, and then you can speak to 7.2.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. First time here, so I don't know how the proceedings work. My name is Ramesh Krishnan. The address that I'm representing is 4502 50th Street, and I'm actually a faculty, so I was teaching at the time when the thing was happening, and I'd gotten a call saying like it shouldn't be a problem approving it, so I didn't expect that y'all wanted me here, so I didn't show up. And I talked to everybody over there. This is a place that everything is zoned commercial. There are a lot of C2 properties around. And the reason I was given, I was kind of surprised when they denied it, and I heard it was because high school Monterey was close by. And I Googled it, it's 1.3 miles away. My daughter goes to Lubbock High. 2 buildings down is a big, huge smoke hunter shop. 2 buildings down, and this is 1.3 miles away, so I was kind of surprised that it was denied, so that's why I'm here.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it.
All right,
Thank you.
Mr. McBrayer, do you have a question for the applicant?
What else is currently in the location? What other businesses are currently?
Mr. McBrayer, I'm going to go ahead at this, one moment, sir. I'm going to go ahead and wait till the public hearing is closed,
Okay,
and then we'll
okay.
open up questions. All right, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of agenda item 7.2? All right, I will close the public hearing as to agenda item 7.2. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 7.2? Thank you, Mr. Massengill. Thank you, Mr. McBrayer. I have a motion and a second. And then I also have Mr. McBrayer. You have questions for the applicant.
Yes, sir. What businesses currently are in this location?
Yes, Mr. McBrayer, what we have is a Gainiac Nutrition Store. They sell like protein supplements and those types of things. And the third tenant is a staffing agency.
Is it what, staff?
Staffing agency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Martinez Garcia.
Another smoke shop just a couple of doors away. Kristen,
Not that I know.
I think it used to be the Pizza Hut or that then became a smoke shop.
We had a zone case for a smoke shop at that location, but it was denied.
It was denied.
Mhm.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Patterson Harris.
Miss Sager, help me.
Yes.
And I may be going back years, you know, I sleep and it goes away. Just over from that yeah, okay, go back,
Okay.
go back. 2 more screens,
The zoning,
1 more. Again, because there was a photo. Isn't the one that is in view with the canopy or whatever,
mm-hmm.
is that not a smoke shop there?
I don't think it's a
Was it one time?
standalone.
It was a smoke shop and a sandwich shop together or something like that? Am I at the wrong spot?
It might be a convenience store that, happens to sell that product, but I don't think it's the primary use.
Maybe I'm getting confused. I remember having that come to us for the very same thing, because back behind that is it a mechanic shop and all? Am I correct?
I think you're correct. I think there's a restaurant there now.
It's a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of Ms. Sager?
I guess,
Oh, Ms. Patterson Harris has the floor still.
no, you can go ahead, Ms. Joy, because my question will be for Mr. Ramesh?
Yeah.
Ramesh, yes.
It's my understanding that we do not have an ordinance prohibiting smoke shops and vape shops. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And there's no ordinance that says how close they can be to one another?
No, there's
there-
nothing prohibiting that.
So, okay. So in the discussion that they had at Planning and Zoning, obviously the fact that it was a smoke and vape shop had some influence
Mm-hmm.
on them.
Yes.
And can you elaborate on that a little bit about what was said?
There was not a lot of discussion. I think the primary factor was that the applicant was not present at the meeting, but the fact that the recent zone case they had for C2 for a smoke shop that they had denied, that immediately came to mind when they heard that this was also for a smoke shop. Knowing that Monterey is just down the road, I think that really influenced their decision. Their concerns were more smoke shops nearby schools.
Well, the prior one, the property was across the street from a school, a private school, not a mile and a half.
That's right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Ms. Patterson Harris.
Forgot what I was going to ask him. The primary purpose of the business is for smoke?
No, it's wellness products. They call it CBD wellness products.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's the primary purpose of the shop.
Okay. Kind of share with me about how the CBD products work.
They primarily say,
Or your ability to sell them.
primarily it is people come in with a lot of pain. First, I'm the landlord, so when I talk to them, what is this all about? Because my understanding of hemp was always to get high and stuff like that, but they explained it to me, it's not true. You know, that's a different part of the plant, and the other part of the plant that helps you heal pain and stuff like that, it's really good for your pain purposes, so.
Are there any shops of this caliber anywhere near your location now?
Not that I know of. I haven't done the research, so I shouldn't say.
Okay, okay. So, the different CBD and the smoke, and do you do vape?
Vaping product is the only one of the products, but I have a whole list. If you're interested, I can read that out so I don't miss out anything. They sell CBD gummies, they have tinctures, they have vape, they have kratom extracts. All of this is for the health is what they claim, except the vape part, I don't know, it's for health, so.
Do you have any other shops yourself?
No, no.
This would be your first one?
I don't own the shop. I own the building.
Oh, you own the
I own the building.
location?
I own the location,
So
and
you're looking
they're
to-
one of the tenants.
Ah, you're looking to rent
Yes.
to a tenant?
Yes.
To do this. What will, and so you have a tenant already in place?
Yes.
Did you bring them today?
No.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, this whole thing is the first time, so learning as we go along, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Cabrera, did you have a question? All right, any other questions, Ms. Sager, of the applicant? Any further discussion from council on 7.2? Ms. Joy?
I think it points out the importance that if you're a proponent or you're in opposition, you need to show up. And we've been saying that, and I think P&Z probably said that. They didn't have anybody they could ask questions of. They couldn't clarify. So be here.
All right, I have a motion and a second on agenda item 7.2. All in favor of approval of 7.2, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? All right, 7.2 carries 7-0. All right, Mr. Massengale will be recusing himself from 7.3, so we will take that one up separately. This is a classic design group for Mighty Wash LLC for a zone change C2 to general retail C3. Ms. Sager?
Item 7.3 is Zone Case 2126I, Design Classic Group for Mighty Wash LLC, requesting a zone change from Local Retail District C2 to General Retail District C3. We sent out 12 notifications, receiving 2 in favor and 0 in opposition. This property is located south of 50th, west of Slide Road. Here's the notification map showing the 2 adjacent properties in favor. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. The property is currently vacant. There are other commercial businesses along 50th with apartments to the south and north. Current zoning is C2. There's additional C2 and C2A along 50th, along with A1 and A2 apartment zoning. Future land use plan designates this property for commercial land uses. And here are some photos of the subject property and surrounding area. The future land use map designation of commercial is consistent with the requested zone change. The requested zoning is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and compatible with the surrounding area. It is along 50th Street, which is designated as a minor arterial. Staff recommended approval of this request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Sager. Any questions of Ms. Sager at this time? All right, thank you. I will now conduct a public hearing on Dr. Wilson has a question.
Ms. Sager, I'm assuming, seeing Mighty Wash, are they planning on building a car wash? Is that what they're planning on building? Okay, thank you.
I think that's a mighty car wash, not just a car. All right, we will now conduct a public hearing on 7.3. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to agenda item 7.3, you may step forward now. All right, seeing none, anyone wishing to speak in favor of 7.3, you may step forward now. Ms. Joy? You,
I'm just here representing Mighty Wash, but I don't really have.
but you're available if there's questions.
If you have questions.
Good enough, thank you. All right, entertain a motion to approve agenda item, well, let me back up. I will now close the public hearing to 7.3. and ask that I have a motion to approve 7.3. I think I got Mr. McBrayer on a first and Dr. Wilson on a second. A close third in between. Having a motion and a second, does anyone have any questions of the applicant and here for Mighty Wash or of Ms. Sager? All right, any further discussion on 7.3? All right, all in favor of approval of agenda item 7.3, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? All right, 7.3 carries 6-0. We'll now bring Mr. Massengale back in. Council, any objection to Ms. Sager going through 7.4 through 7.7? All right, do you want to go ahead and cover those, Ms. Sager? Thank you.
Item 7.4 is zone case 3477. The applicant is AMD Engineering, LLC, for Beatonbow Homes, LLC. The request is to rezone property from transition to two-family district R2. We sent out 27 notifications, receiving 0 in favor and 1 in opposition. Here is the response map showing the 1 in opposition. That property is actually located outside city limits in the county. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. It is located north of 146th Street, west of Avenue P. Current zoning is transition, and it's surrounded by other transition zoning as well as the city limit to the east and south. Future land use plan designates this property for low-density residential land uses and then commercial land uses at the corner of 146th and Avenue P. Here are photos of the subject property and surrounding area. And that photo on the top right is not correct. I apologize. The future land use map designates the property for low-density residential and commercial land uses. So while the R2 zoning is not consistent, it is considered appropriate in this location adjacent to the already developing neighborhood to the northwest. The zone changes in conformance with the ordinance and are compatible with the surrounding area. 146 is a principal arterial. Avenue S to the east is a local street to the west. Staff recommends approval of this request. The commission recommended approval by unanimous vote, and I could take any questions.
Ms. Joy.
I'm looking at the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that she's an adjoining property, Ms. Brown. Is that what she is?
Yes. So
Because she said, you need to relocate my water well, my fence poles, my mailbox, redo my driveway, and pay for the land. So
her property is on the south side of 146th Street, south of the subject property.
Okay.
When we received her letter, we did reach out to her just so we could clarify any questions she may have about what this request was. She did not return our call.
Thank you, Ms. Sager. 7.5?
Item 7.5 is zone case 3096H. The applicant is Flying O Investments, LLC. The request is to rezone property from General Retail District C3 to Commercial District C4 specific use for a bar. We sent out 7 notifications, receiving none in favor or in opposition. This property is located west of Slide Road, south of 110th. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. It is currently under development, as you'll see in the later slides, with a multi-tenant structure. There is a hospital under construction on the east side of Slide Road and additional commercial uses further south. Current zoning is C3 with additional C3 to the north and south and C4 zoning to the east across Slide Road. Future land use plan designates this property for commercial land uses. And here are some photos of the subject property and surrounding area. You can see on the subject property the structure currently under construction. This is a graphic provided by the applicant showing the proposed shopping center in this location, as well as a layout of the building footprint. The future land use map designation is for commercial land uses, so the request for C4 zoning is appropriate. The request is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and compatible with the surrounding area. Slide Road is designated as a principal arterial, and 111th Street is designated as a local street. Staff recommended approval of this request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Dr. Wilson.
Just for clarification, Ms. Sager, it's not, it's to sell alcohol, it's not a bar. It's going to be Woodhouse Day Spa is going to be moving.
Yes.
And they would like to sell alcohol to
That's
the
right.
spa patrons.
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Yeah. Thank you.
Service with a massage and a smile.
Yeah.
Ms. Joy.
Right on a corner, isn't it?
The corner of the multi-tenant building?
The facility is on the corner of that tract. When you look at.
Yes.
If you just look at the land, it doesn't look that way, but it's
Right.
the corner of 111th and Slide.
That's correct.
C4. Gotcha.
All right, 7.6.
Item 7.6 is Zone Case 3468A. The applicant is Hugo Reed and Associates for DWTP LLC. The request is to rezone property from R1A, single-family district, to two-family district R2. We sent out 3 notifications, receiving none in favor or in opposition. This property is located south of 114th Street, west of Milwaukee Avenue. Here's the aerial view of the subject property. It is surrounded by vacant land, and there are a few homes on the east side of Milwaukee. Current zoning is R1A, reduced setback, single-family district. It is adjacent to R2, two-family district to the north and east, A2, high-density apartment to the south, and additional R1A to the west. Future land use plan designates this property for low-density residential land uses. And here are some photos of the subject property and surrounding area. This is a graphic provided by the applicant showing the proposed zoning in context with the existing zoning. The future land use map designation of low-density residential is not consistent with the request for R2, though it is appropriate in this location adjacent to already existing R2 and other R1 zoning. The zone changes in conformance with the zoning ordinance and compatible with the surrounding area. 114th Street is a minor arterial, and Milwaukee Avenue is the principal arterial. Staff recommends approval of this request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
All right, 7.7.
Item 7.7 is Zone Case 3256A. The applicant is AMD Engineering LLC for Conetrics. The purpose is to rezone for property from single-family district R1 to neighborhood commercial district C1. We sent out 27 notifications, receiving none in favor or in opposition. This property is located north of 34th, east of Kewanee Avenue. Here's the aerial view of the subject property. It is a lake, and it's surrounded by vacant property to the north, east, and west. There is a neighborhood on the west side of Kewanee Avenue and on the south side of 34th Street. The West End commercial development is on the east side of Viola Avenue. Current zoning is single-family district R1. There is C3 at the corner of Kewanee and 34th, as well as C3 to the northeast of the subject property, with R1, A2, and R2 zoning west of Kewanee, south of 34th. The future land use plan designates this property for office land uses. And here's some photos of the subject property and surrounding area. This is a graphic provided by the applicant showing the proposed subject property, and an aerial provided by the applicant as well. The future land use map designation of office is not quite consistent with the C1 request. C1 would be considered light commercial. However, it is appropriate in this location already between 2 properties zoned C3. The proposed zoning is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and compatible with the surrounding area. The rezoning location is along 34th and Kewanee. 34th is a principal arterial and Kewanee is a collector. Staff recommended approval of the request. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. And I will clarify, the intent of this case is not to develop this lake as C1. The property owner also owns the property at the corner of 34th and Kewanee, and they are wanting to do an office development. But being adjacent to R1, it imposes additional setbacks and screening requirements that they are trying to get away from. And now I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Ms. Martinez Garcia.
Is that Costco?
Yes.
I just have to tell you that property has been intriguing, and I love the way that they have been developing it. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sager. This time, I will open up public hearing as to agenda items 7.4 through 7.7. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to 7.4 through 7.7, you may step forward now. All right, seeing none, we will now ask anyone wishing to speak in favor of agenda items 7.4 through 7.7. You may step forward. You may state the agenda item you are speaking in favor of, along with your name and address.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Will Stevens. I'm with AMD Engineering at 6515 68th Street, and I'm representing Kinetrix on zone case item 7.7. As Kristen mentioned, Mr. Crossnow, Marvin Crossnow, who is the owner and creator of Kinetrix, owns this entire piece of land, including the lake, and he has been working on building a corporate office for his company on the southwest corner, adjacent to the zone change request. And in doing so, as Kristen mentioned, if he were to build it right now with the R1 zoning adjacent to him, he would have to put up a fence, and his building would have to be set back off of it. And so we are just rezoning the lake, probably Lake 40, to the lowest commercial zoning that we could, so that we could alleviate those requirements. And I have a site plan here and some elevations of the building if y'all would like to see them, but he will maintain ownership of the lake and keep taking care of it as he is now, so definitely. Oh, you would? Okay, absolutely.
Will he fill that with water?
Pretty low, but I don't know if I can pull back up the imagery.
You can go back to it and then pull stuff up there.
Oh, there we go. So the first phase is going to be 2 stories. The second phase is planned to be 4 stories. If the second phase ever happens, right now they're planning on that first phase to accommodate their current staff. And if they were to grow, then they would build the second phase. That plan is kind of a fully fleshed out, both phases. And as you can see on that site plan, he's wanting to push that building back as far into that corner as he can, so it can kind of overlook the lake and all the work that he's done there. Also mentioned that the Great Vineyards along Kewanee, with that site plan, we've been very intent on keeping those. We've placed the driveway appropriately so that we can keep those. But Mr. Crossland's been working on this office building for over a decade, so he's thought it through, and it means a lot to him. And so I think this will kind of help him not have to screen it from the back and have to set it back so far into his parking lot.
Ms. Joy.
Crosno came and talked to council people that were there 10 years ago about this project, and he wasn't ready to do anything. He just came and told us kind of what his idea was, where it was located,
right,
so that we could, I guess, be thinking about it. So we have been thinking about it. And I did talk to Will, and I told him to be sure and contact their neighborhood association, and I think I just forwarded you all that information, because they have a very active, energetic HOA, and they need to know, because they have questions.
Right.
We've all seen the grapes being planted, and we've seen he's done a lot of work.
Yes.
And for a huge piece of property, he's kept it clean, he's kept it attractive, it's very neat. And so we're not voting on the project as a whole today. We're just talking about that particular little playa lake that he's kind of kept up, and I think in future years will be very attractive.
Yes, ma'am.
So just understand that's not what we're voting on today, is the whole project.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of 7.4 through 7.7?
Good Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I'm Terry Holman with Hugo Reed and Associates. We're at 1601 Avenue N. I'm speaking on behalf of item 7.6. This is a project for DWTP LLC. This is their Hillstone residential development. We came to you with a comprehensive zone case back this past fall, and we got a blend of R1A and R2 and some multifamily. As we've gotten further along in our engineering and as the developers have gotten further along in their marketing, they've decided that it's beneficial to go ahead and try to get a little bit more duplex type product in this development. So we're pushing inwards towards the middle of the development with a request for some more duplexes. And that's the reason for our R2 request this afternoon. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Terry?
Thank you.
All right. Speaking in favor of.
Hello, my name is Wes Everett, representing Beaton Boat Homes, 6305 82nd Street. I'm here speaking in favor of 7.4. This was a zone case that we had requested so that we could continue that corner and section of our neighborhood. The opposition, the Miss Brown that was she was actually at the P&Z meeting, and we were able to talk to her after the meeting. And her opposition came from, there were survey flags by her well house. She is actually south of the SPEC substation. And there were some survey flags there, and she was afraid that we were coming in and taking out her well house. And so that kind of explains and made more sense from her opposition letter once we knew that. And so we explained to her that we were really coming in and finishing out the neighborhood in that corner, and so she had understood. We did direct her to contact the number on the flag, and if she had any issues, to contact us, and we'd see if we could still help her. I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Wes? All right, anyone else here in favor of 7.4 through 7.7? All right. Any objection from council to taking one vote on 7.4 through 7.7? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve. Wes, you're up.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
7.7. Is that the site plan? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And this is the one located right behind Costco.
Yes, ma'am.
Right down from the Boys and Girls Club.
Believe that is north of us, northwest.
A lot of that area to the west of that is low to moderate income.
Okay.
Does this project have any financial impact on the folks living in that area?
I don't know if I can answer that. It's just, in the zone case specifically wouldn't have any impact because no one can build on this property because it's Ply Lake right now. So specifically regarding the zone case, it wouldn't change anything. It's just, it's undevelopable as it is because it is Ply Lake. I brought the site plan more as a reference as to why we were requesting that zoning in the location that we were, because it is kind of an odd request. But does that answer your question? I don't think it really did, but.
I'm trying to dance around it, because those are things, and while I know at this moment not so, but the plan is for the other, right? Am I correct?
The plan is to build his office on the southwest corner, southwest of this property that we're getting the zone change on, right?
I just wanted to know, would that have any impact on the people to the west of where that building is going to be located?
I can speak to the building location being as far away from Kewanee and the residential neighborhood as we could possibly get it. It's going to be about 300 plus feet away from that property line. So that's as far as we could get it away from the property line without having to get into the Ply Lake slope requirements that the city has. So we did and that's why we have to do this zone case, because right now it's not in conformance. It would have to be further off of those property lines. So we're trying to get it as far tucked back there as we can.
Because that's a concern for me.
Okay.
That's a big concern for me,
Okay.
so. All right, thank you.
All right, so hearing that, Ms. Patterson-Harris, I can remove 7.7. Any objection to taking 7.4 through 7.6 in one vote? All right, hearing no objection, I would entertain a motion to approve 7.4, 7.5, and 7.6. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you, Mr. Massengale. All in favor of approval of items 7.4, 7.5, and 7.6, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? All right, seeing none, that carries Courtney 7-0. We will next, I would entertain a motion to approve agenda item 7.7. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you, Ms. Martinez-Garcia. I have a motion and a second on 7.7. Any further discussion on agenda item 7.7? Okay, seeing no request for further discussion, all in favor of approval of agenda item 7.7, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? Motion carries 6-1. All right, that concludes our regular agenda. It is 2:57, and we are adjourned.